Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. OSO is a new microbrand based in Singapore, and they're dipping their toes into this highly competitive market with a meca-quartz equipped chronograph watch that appears to be inspired by the early decades of the space age. This is the Orbit Collection and is a lineup of vintage inspired chronographs that do actually look the part for an aerospace inspired chronograph. I'm not sure what OSO stands for, but I'll take a guess and say that it might have been inspired by the orbiting solar observatory program of the 60s. The Orbit Collection is offered in 3 different case and dial configurations, and I requested to review the Mirage, which is a gold case, green dial, and white sub-dial option. These watches are scheduled to be launched by Kickstarter on November 10th, and prices will begin at $220 and an eventual retail price of $300. Let's check it out. The case measures 40 millimeters in diameter, 46.5 millimeters from lug to lug, and roughly 12 millimeters tall. This particular model, the Mirage, has a gold-colored case that is made of stainless steel and is mostly brushed, with a few polished accents. The case is somewhere between a tonneau and a rectangle in shape and has all angular surfaces to echo that vintage design aesthetic. Along either side of the case, there is a polished bevel or chamfer that plays with light very nicely. The lugs are angular and short and slightly curved down towards the wrist. The lugs are not drilled through. There is a fixed bezel section that is polished and houses a slightly domed sapphire crystal with AR coating on both sides. The 2 chronograph pusher buttons are also polished and the action is very solid. The crown does not screw down but is signed with the brand's logo, and it's very easy to grip and operate. I didn't notice any crown or stem wobble. Flipping it over, you have a solid screw-down case back with beautiful engravings. The watch is rated for up to 100 meters of water resistance, which is impressive considering the lack of a screw-down crown or screw-down pushers. The OSO website lists the dial finishing as a smooth matte, but to me the base of the dial has a similar appearance to ceramic. The outermost element is the tachymeter scale, which is printed in white on the green background. The quality of printing here is good and this entire section is very easily legible. The next element is the minute or seconds marker ring, with a large tick for every second and 4 small ticks for the milliseconds. Again, the quality of the printing is good for what this watch costs, but is a bit grainy. You then have applied stainless steel indices that are filled with C3 superluminova. At the 3 and 9 o'clock, these indices are replaced by circular lume pips because of the 2 subdials. I think this is a very smart design choice, and most brands would have skipped an index here altogether. Good job on this. The finishing on the indices is alright for the price, but I wouldn't say it's great. The lume isn't cleanly filled on the indices, and I noticed some dust or dirt on them too. But again, for the price, I suppose you have to set your expectations accordingly. The brand's name and logo is printed under the 12 o'clock index, and once again the printing is a bit grainy, but I also noticed a lot of dust and dirt in this area. I know not to expect perfection at $220, but this is unfortunate at any price point, and I hope that the quality control is improved on the final production units. There are 2 subdials at the 6 and 9 o'clock positions that are recessed into the dial. The printing on these is significantly better, and I love the contrast of the white subdials against the dark green dial. There is a date window at the 6 o'clock position that I think is a perfect choice for this layout. The entire dial maintains overall symmetry, and the date window definitely contributes to that. The date wheel has a white background with black text and matches the subdials. The framed window is reasonably well finished too. The handset design is appropriately selected for a chronograph and doesn't draw too much attention to itself. The hands are finished reasonably well and well loomed too. There's a bit of dust and dirt on the hands, but this is somewhat expected for watches in this price range, and none of this can be seen without a loupe or macro lens. Overall, I like the dial design, and I think the entire dial comes together very nicely. My only concern is the finishing. At the very least, any dust or dirt that can be seen with the naked eye must be addressed. For the $220 price tag, I think microparticles can be tolerated. With most sports chronographs, I keep my expectations low where lume is concerned. I don't expect elaborate lume design, and I don't expect Seiko levels of brightness either. I was pleasantly surprised to find that all the indices were generously filled with C3 superluminova. The hour and minute hands are also loomed, and all the loomed elements are fairly bright and hold their charge well. Don't expect this to stay bright throughout the night, but it's still more than adequate. This watch uses a Seiko VK64, a hybrid meca-quartz chronograph movement with a sweeping seconds hand. You should know that where affordable chronograph watches are concerned, I'm biased in favor of these movements over mechanical movements like the Seagull ST19. So for the $220 price tag, this is more than appropriate. The button action is excellent, and these movements are a great substitute for mechanical chronograph movements if you're on a budget. The 40mm diameter, 46.5mm lug-to-lug width, and 12mm height make for a comfortable wrist experience. It wears well on my 6¼ inch wrist, but given the rectangular shape, it wears a bit larger than you would expect from a 46.5mm lug-to-lug width watch. The case pack protrudes out of the case by roughly 1mm, and the weight of the watch is well distributed. No problems with comfort here. Overall, I think this watch is interesting. The case and dial design works well together, and at the $220 price tag, this is a fun watch to own. The dial is in need of better quality control though. At this price, I don't expect perfection, but after reviewing the Van Dag Schalmau, it's clear to me that excellent finishing is not exclusive to expensive watches. The build quality and the design is good, and the watch does have an interesting and unique personality. I like the meca-quartz movement and it helps match the case's solid and robust build. I also like the overall wrist experience, so if this design does appeal to you, you're probably going to enjoy this piece. As always, thanks for watching and don't forget to read the full length review in the link below.